Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Chronicles of Hollywood History, past, present, and future. Welcome. And here now, Corey Gomez.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. And you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for calling me. This is an honor.
No, it's my pleasure.
Oh, man. My son, he's 10. He and I both, he started his martial arts at 5. I started when I was about 8. I'm 46 now. He and I love your movies. We look forward to every one.
Thank you. I thank you so much. I appreciate to hear it. What is your discipline? What do you train?
When I was a kid, I did standard karate and judo, and now at 46, I'm studying Kempo.
Very nice. Yeah, it's all good. As long, I always say there are all martial arts are good, and there are two types: high level and low level. Otherwise, they're all good.
My son got his junior taekwondo black belt when he was 5, and now he's doing Kempo with me as well.
Very good. That's very good.
We always loved martial arts. I fell in love with it when I was a child from the... I didn't fall into it like a lot of people with the Bruce Lee. I was a Shokasuke man.
Oh, yeah, because you're 46 now. I'm 61, almost 62. It's a different generation.
You were the Bruce Lee, Sonny Chiba era.
Bruce Lee, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Even before Bruce Lee, because the first time I saw it was in a James Bond movie, You Only Live Twice.
Yes.
And it was fascinating. I was then, that's 1967, I was 8, 9 years old, and there's a whole sections that they're training there, and you see people from Masoyama Dojo, and you see people with the swords from, it is called Katori Shintoryu, Otake Sensei. They're in the movie. The fight choreographer was the famous Don Draeger, that he wrote in the 60s some fantastic books on martial arts. He was a pioneer when it came to martial arts in America. He was a GI and he stayed in Japan. And you can see the fight choreography in the movie. Even though it was done in 66, 67, there's some fantastic stuff in there until now when you see it and you're like, wow, it's pretty spectacular judo throws. And that was the first time that I saw it, and I was fascinated. It was fascinating for me. Years later, the BBC did a whole episode. They did a series, The Way of the Warrior, and they did a whole episode on Katori Shintoryu and Otake. It's a school that they've been there, I think, from either 1347 or 14 or 30. It's like either late 14th century, late 14th century or early 15th century. And the school is still there and the tradition is still there. So they were really using tactics that later you can see in ninjutsu, and they don't call it ninjutsu, it's just old style Japanese martial arts.
Now, I think what a lot of people don't know, I mean, your name is, of course, well known amongst us action fans, but, you've kind of given it away with this, but especially like the way you the way you direct and help with the choreography, like in movies like Ninja, Shadow of a Tear, to make Scott Adkins style it looked very more Japanese, so to speak, than normal. You have a very large background in martial arts, which helps you do this, correct?
That's correct. I started when I was around 12, 13. I started in Israel. And I started actually, you couldn't start with karate then because it was supposed to be for tough guys. So I had to start with judo. I started with judo and then drove everybody crazy, and they let me, the same dojo, they let me start to train in karate. And the style that was taught in the dojo was Kyokushinkai Karate. And after a few years, the teacher left and came a Japanese instructor that was teaching a combination of Shitoryu and Shotokan, and I stayed with him. And around 1975, Muay Thai arrived to Israel, and I was thinking whether to leave karate or not because they were doing stuff, and I said, it seems to me not efficient. And in 1975, the person that really I see as my teacher, Thomas Weber, sensei, arrived from Sweden to a visit to Israel, and he stumbled into our dojo and he was invited to teach. And what he did just puzzled me. It's like everything that I wanted in karate, he did. It was very efficient, and it was very. It moved harmoniously between kicks and throws and punches. And efficiency was the key. It was very efficient, yet it was very, very elegant and very classical. So I, after my military service, that was from 1976 to 1979, I went to his dojo in Stockholm, in Sweden, and I stayed there for a few months. And I was training, I was what is called uchideshi, like an outside student. I lived in the dojo, and I returned to Israel, and I opened my dojo just before, but I returned to Israel, and he kept on coming to Israel about twice a year. By then, we had a big organization in Israel that had about 12 dojos, and he was coming twice a year, and I am a karate bum. Yes, I'm a filmmaker by trade, but I am first and foremost a karate bum.
Did you always want to do film, or did you want to try to maybe become like a competitive karate, kickboxing, anything like that, or was film always like your second love?
I love karate. I never saw it as a sport. I competed in a few tournaments, but I don't see sport karate. I think that karate is a budo, is a martial way, is something to discipline your body and your mind. Yet it has to be very efficient. And competition, the minute that you put rules, it's a sport. The art is gone from it. But I'm not talking about an art for the sake of art. I'm talking again about techniques that are valid and efficient that you will never do in competition because they might be too dangerous. And you will do it in the street, you will do it in self-defense, you even do it when you spar in the dojo, controlled, of course. So the minute that you really make it into a sport, if we look at karate or any martial arts, but as an art of 360 degrees, you take, let's say, 60 degrees, and you emphasize only on those 60 degrees, you lost the all other. You lost the other part of it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the problem when you make it into a sport. It happened to judo, it happened to taekwondo, and it's a pity because if you look at taekwondo in the 60s and 70s, it was not a martial sport, it was a martial art. And now it's more of a sport, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So karate was supposed to be in the Olympics in 2020, but only as demonstration sport and only once, which is a good thing because people say that it can be an interesting sport, but I'm glad that it will not stay there because it will eventually ruin the martial art of it, the art, or the martial way of it.
Now, you look at it, and that's how I look at it. I kind of look at it as a quote-unquote life sport. What I always tell my wife when she asks when I'm buying a new staff or something, what do you, totally off the subject of filmmaking, what are your thoughts on, like, mixed martial arts, like ultimate fighting and stuff like that?
You know, there's a very famous Japanese, he passed away a few months ago, instructor, Hirokazu Kanazawa, was one of the top JKA instructor. Then he left them in his 70s. He was the best Shotokan competitor and karateka, and I knew him pretty well. And I remember his definition was, it's like they are like speed racer. Everybody can drive, but not everybody is a speed. Goes and does races. That's MMA for me. It's not for everybody. Also, if you look at martial arts, it's got ethics. It's got discipline. It's about being humble. It's about being really. I will not say shy, but staying a little bit in the shadow. Mm-hmm. And MMA is becoming a little bit like the WWE. I mean, you see profanity, you see stuff that has nothing to do with the discipline of martial arts. And it's like, and I'm not saying that those people are not good. A lot of them are coming from traditional martial arts. But as a parent, you are sending your child to a dojo or any other martial arts school. You want that the instructor will be a role model to your kid, somebody that will make him a winner in life. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that if you see a lot of, not a lot, but some of the behavior of people that are doing MMA, is that the role model that you want for your child? This will make him into a winner, because we have to remember that really the motto behind it is Gishin Funakoshi is the founder of Shotokan, and the person who really brought karate to Japan from Okinawa in 1921-22. He said that the goal of karate is not really the ultimate aim or goal of karate is not victory or defeat, but perfection of character. So, and that's one thing. Also, if you look and you see the way, let's talk even about the belt system. The belt system, which it has pluses and minuses, but let's talk about the pluses. It's a way to set up realistic goals, way to achieve them, and after you achieve one goal or one belt, you go to another one. So it teaches you as a child to be very organized and disciplined, and to set goals, to find a way to achieve them, and then you can set other goals, higher goals, step by step. And you use the same method later in life, in your studies, at work, in everything that you do. So basically, it makes you a better person in society.
I couldn't agree with you more on that. My dojo is very old school. We don't wear headgear. Everything's about control.
That's good.
Our sensei he always tells a story to the kids. We're allowed to do it as a family, which I really like that. It's not like a lot of the schools, unfortunately, that popped up over the years where it's all you have to do is one move to get a belt, that one move and, $50 for your test, and you don't really learn much. And yeah, it's finding a good school nowadays in some states can be a little trickier than people think.
That's the difference between a dojo and a karate or martial arts school. Dojo teaches you the way, and really, if you think about it, I've been training for 49 years now, and I never paid a penny for each one of my belt. It's your, it's your right. If you train and you train hard, it's your right to be tested. Mm-hmm. So I don't believe in it. I understand that sometimes the dojo, of course, has to make money, but I don't think that examinations are the right way of doing it, or the correct way of doing it. I totally understand you, and I call dojos like this, actually it came from my sensei, Thomas Weber used to call it Coca-Cola style.
Yeah,
So
we even have a few schools around here. It's like, well, if you signed a 2-year contract, you're guaranteed a black belt at the end of that. It's like, you could study 5 years and not earn a black belt. You know, you can't
it took
guarantee
me
a
8
belt.
years to get my shogun. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Yeah.
Now, when you decided to move into films, I have to ask because with being from Israel, did you try to seek out Menachem Golan, Globus, and those guys from Canon right away?
So here's the story. What happened from a very, very young age, I wanted to make movies. Actually, I wanted to make westerns. I was a big fan of the Italian westerns. And I never thought that I'll make it into a career. It's coming from a small country then. Israel had 2.5 million people. After my military service, I went to university and I decided to learn film and television. My parents were not that happy. They wanted me to be an accountant, a doctor, a dentist, something more stable.
Mm-hmm.
But I was maybe a little bit of a rebel, and I opened a dojo, and I went to Tel Aviv University and studied cinema. And then again, never thought that I would do it. I was very happy with my dojo. I also it was pretty successful. But I did a short, and it was an half-an-hour short, and it was the first action movie that was done in Israel. And it was in a festival. Then there was maybe 1 or 2 film festivals in Israel, probably 1, yes. And it really swept all the awards. And the reason why it swept the awards, I don't think it's not really a good movie, but it was after a long day that people were seeing artsy movies and political movies and abstract movies and movies that, love stories. And suddenly, by the end of the day, when everybody's tired came, an action movie, a pure action movie, like people kind of woke up. So to my surprise, a few days later, that movie won really all of the awards that were really on the slate. And it was, again, coming from a small country, all the papers, there was only one TV channel then. On television, on prime time, big deal. And after that, I remember I was talking to my wife. And my wife was originally from the States. She came to Israel. She became a physician, and she wanted to live in Israel. But I kind of got the appetite to try it in the movie business, especially, like you said, like you mentioned, Canon was pretty big at that time.
I love Canon.
Yes. And I remember watching American Ninja that was done, but now is a good friend, Sam Fistenberg. And I saw the movie, and I remember telling my wife, I can do something like this. Oh, and she was so upset at me because she understood that if I really want to go and do it, we'll have to return to the States. She didn't like it, but she went with me. So we came to the States. It was the end of 1988. I actually arrived at my birthday. It was my 30th birthday. And I knew really no one. I never really worked in the industry. And at that time, Canon shut down. Just fell down. Menachem Golan opened another company that was doing much smaller movies called 21st Century. 2 years later, in the first 2 years, like it took me, and people told me it will take you 2 years to understand how the business is working in LA, and they're absolutely right. So I kind of managed to work in some movie sets as a PA, then a fight choreographer, then a second unit director, step by step. After about, and I co-wrote with a friend 2 scripts. Now, I'm a terrible screenwriter, but I'm really the worst. But I was thinking of production. I was thinking of a script that can be done really with a shoestring budget. By that time, I was managing some kind of a reshoot that were done for a movie that Canon did, and I managed to meet Menachem Golan. Now, he remembered my short movie because it was his wife who gave me the prize. And by then, I also did 10 videotapes, instructional, that were done by Panther Production. I don't remember if you remember Panther Production. They were the first company that were doing martial arts videos.
Were those the ones? Were those the ones they would sell in like Black Belt magazine and stuff like
yes.
that? Okay.
Yes. So I did 10 VHS DVDs, not DVDs, VHS videos for them. And the reason why I did them, it's not that I wanted to do them. I demonstrated and explained. I knew that I needed something with my name on it, a box, so I can show people that I've done something. And when I went to Menachem Golan office, he knew the short. People knew me in Israel because there were not so many karate schools, and people knew my school. And I came with a script that could be done for really almost nothing, and I put 10 VHSs on his table. And I think he was looking at me and says, he kind of was thinking, so somebody already put some money on that guy. That means I'm not going to take a big risk here. And he asked me, will it be a 90-minute movie? And I told him, yes. And he said, okay, you can start. He trusted me. And this is how I managed to do my first movie. This is in 1992. This is how it happened. It was 16 shooting days. Budget was about 200 and something $1,000. His business partner then, Ami Artsy, liked the script and added another $20,000, so it was 10% more. And I did it with the guy that studied with me also in high school and in university, and he shot my short movie. We did it in Vasquez Rocks in Los Angeles, where a lot of episodes of Star Trek, they did Star Trek there, and Power Rangers, and even Blazing Saddles. It's a location that many people know. And I was adamant about finishing on time and on budget, so people will not say, you lied to us, you cheated us, and etc. I was adamant to finish on time and on budget. And basically this is how I shot the very first film. And until now, really my motto is, if that's the time, that's the budget that I'm going to get, I'm going to use it to its maximum. And because it's like, there's a saying, and I heard it from my sensei just before opening my dojo, takes 10 years to build a reputation and takes 10 seconds to destroy it. Mm-hmm. I wanted to build a reputation then of somebody that was reliable. And that's the way, that was it. That was the first movie.
Now, would that movie by chance be Desert Kickboxer?
Yes, and the original name was Desert Hawk. But what happened is that HBO then bought the movie. Menachem Golan was very happy that they bought the movie, and he told me they bought the movie, but they're changing the name to Desert Kickboxer. And I said, wow, what a terrible, terrible name. But he was happy, so I was happy, and that's it, you know.
Now, Desert Kickboxer, and then one of my favorite movies, which I think saw for the first time on HBO with Olivia Grunier that you did, Savat. Those were the first two martial art films I saw that were very much in that Italian spaghetti western kind of feel.
That's correct. Yes. So I told you before that I wrote 2 scripts before I met Menachem Golan. The second one was Savat. But Savat, you needed a little bit more money. It was a period piece. It was a western. Yes, it's influenced by the spaghetti westerns. Now, Savat is based on a real character, Joseph Charlemont, that was a very known Savateur in the 1860s. He was actually the teacher of Alexander Dumas, that wrote the Count of Monte Cristo and the Three Musketeers. He was a Savateur, too. And Charlemont was a very famous Savateur, but he also was in the French military, an officer, and around that time, the 1865, this is where Napoleon III sent his French troops to help Maximilian in Mexico against Juarez, Benito Juarez, the revolution. And there were a lot of Italian westerns that were done about that period. By the way, not only spaghetti western, Two Mules for Sister Sarah with Clint Eastwood that Don Ziegel directed is also taking place around that time. So, but basically for me, it was an opportunity to do a martial arts movie based on a real character and to make it a western, yet to add martial arts in it. Now, I want to tell you something in parentheses. Many people are writing about the history of karate. Not so many people know or research the influence of French Savat on Japanese martial arts. This is something that I was talking to known karate historians like my friend Patrick McCarthy and another friend Emil Farkas that are known martial artists but also noted historians. What happened is the first, at the Meiji era, when Japan went into the new period, the 1860s, the first advisors that they invited were from France. This was the time that Savat was at its peak, at the peak of it. So the French advisors were there for a few years until France lost to Germany in 1871, and the Japanese replaced the French with Germans. But if you look at original karate or even kung fu, kicks like hook kick, spinning hook kick, even roundhouse kick are not there. And if you look at Savat already in the 1860s and 70s, you see those kicks in there. So I cannot go and prove it in 100%, but I have a strong feeling that those kicks entered into karate from France, from French Savat. And one of the exhibits that I can give you is that if you look at the way that Japanese karate was teaching the roundhouse kick, which is called mawashigeri, was kicking with the ball of the foot or the toes. And you can do it when you have boots or shoes in your feet. The better way and the more safe is to kick with the instinct, like Thai boxers are kicking, or today everybody is kicking. But if you look at the original way that this kick was taught, it was with kicking with the ball of the foot. And it came from French Savat.
See, I really liked Savat because it was all I had known about Savat, excuse me, prior to that was sometimes I would see like side kicks, and they would call them Savat kicks.
Yeah, exactly.
So to watch like Olivier Grunier, and he's, doing this style that's basically not really been captured on film. To me, I always like seeing like, here's a new guy doing a new style. And I thought it was he had a great cast in it. You had Donald Gibb from Bloodsport, Mark Singer. It was a great movie.
Yeah, thank you. And it was fun to do it. by the way, Olivier Gruner is actually his origin, his background is karate and kickboxing and Thai boxing. But coming from France, he could adapt and he understood what to do for the movie. But yes, that's basically the idea behind it, was to take it, and those kicks, he basically was, he's teaching Ein Ziering in a scene in the movie. Mm-hmm. And he's kind of teaching him the base of Savat. Yes, that's correct.
From there, you kind of in between, I should say, too. How did you get involved in the Power Rangers series?
So when I came to Los Angeles at the end of 1988, I basically had two phone numbers. One I got from one of my students in my dojo, and it was of producer Ronnie Adar. And the other I got from somebody that studied with me, that his father was a film distributor, was of the actor Paul Smith, that was the bad guy in Midnight Express, and he was Brutus with Robin Williams, Popeye. He was in Dune. So they were best friends. I didn't know that. They were best friends, and we became really, really close friends. I mean, Paul and his wife became close friends of my wife and I, and Ronnie and I, until now, are best friends. And actually, before I met Menachem Golan, I worked in some of Ronnie's movies as a fight choreographer. So Ronnie became the producer of Power Rangers. And what happened, I was not involved with the series. I was not that interested in going into to television, but I remember I went to visit them when they were doing the pilot, and they went and did it in Vasquez Rocks, of course. Met Chaim Saban at that time. But what happened is, after they shot around 20 episodes, they were not happy because, and I'm going to be technical, the American style of shooting was, let's shoot a master and let's cover it. That's the style that, the way that from the 30s or the 20s, this is the way that movies were done in America. And the Japanese way was what is called edit to camera. You are editing before you're shooting. It's more interesting and it's more demanding. So remember that the show combined Japanese footage and American footage. Mm-hmm. But they were not seamless. You could see that it was like oil and water.
Yes.
So basically, at a certain point, they were saying, let's either bring a team from Japan, this was to do the action first. And then Ronnie said, wait, I know somebody that is a director, is a martial artist, he knows Japanese cinema and Hong Kong movies. I trust him. Let's try it with him. Let's see if it will work. If it doesn't work, let's bring a team from Japan. So I basically came and I shot a test, a fight test, and it went really well. And I remember Chaim Saban came and saw it and said, now I know that we'll have a second season. Remember, the series was not aired at that point. We were just, it was just shooting it. Mm-hmm. So I started working in the series, and the first thing that we did was the Green Ranger, because the Green Ranger really arrived later. And I did all of his stuff. And that was Jason David Frank. Yes. And I said, wow, I think we have something very interesting in our hands. And I tell you when I felt it. We we were shooting a fight in downtown LA. And I remember people were watching, people were staying on the roofs and watching, and they were cheering. And that we shot it in the day. In the evening, we flew to a TV convention that was in Vegas. It was NAPTI. And I remember sitting with my team in the airplane. And I said, they really, really liked it. I think that we have something special in our hand. And a few months later, two things happened. We had to cut a lot of head kicks because people were worried about violence in television, which I was not happy because it kind of, we had to go and change the editing. But a good thing happened. I remember when we mixed the very, very first episode. It was supposed to be aired Saturday morning. We mixed it on Thursday evening, and we finished. It was Friday around 2 in the afternoon, and Ronnie Ada was there, and the other producer, Jonathan Sahor, was there, and Chaim Saban, and the DP Ilan Rosenberg, and we came out. And Chaim said, okay, tomorrow we'll see. If this is not a success, then I guess I know nothing about kid shows. And I'm going to basically sell my kiosk. That's the way he talked about it. Now, I forgot to tell you that when I first met Chaim, when we were doing just the pilot and we were talking, we were sitting and talking, and he told me that really the one thing that drew him to television was kid show. He really liked kid show. So Saturday morning it aired, and it became an instant hit. So that was pretty amazing.
No, my son watched it. I watched it back in the day, and because I grew up on stuff like the old Toho Godzillas and Super Inframan and stuff like that. But I can also tell who knows martial arts, who knows movie fu, who knows gymnastics. Whereas Jason David Frank, you could tell right away, was a really, even at that young, a very accomplished martial artist. Any chance we'll ever see him pop up in one of your movies?
I don't know. I mean, it depends. It all depends on the circumstances. You know, you never know. You never know. It's like in this business, you never know what's tomorrow. It's that's all I can tell you. Expect the unexpected always.
Now, here's going to come a question that I know you're always going to be asked. My son's hero, oh my God, one of my heroes, Scott Adkins. How did you basically discover him?
So, okay, around 1998. I wanted to do stuff that was also more related to the martial arts community. And I met Don Warner, who just came from Canada to LA. Now, I knew the name Don Warner because in the 70s, he used to write for Official Karate magazine. And he used to have at a certain point 32 dojos in Toronto and Hamilton area. And at a certain point, he started to publish books, and I met him by chance. So it's an interesting story how we met, and it's a very funny story. But basically, we met, we became friends, and then we became a business partner in a company called Rising Sun. The idea was to do martial arts instructional videos. Nothing that is broadcasting quality, just for karate bums. He's a karate bum, I'm a karate bum, we want to do something like this. 2 years later, or 3 years later, we had an office in Los Angeles, in Beverly Hills, And by then, people knew me that I was still was also doing movies, and we used to get many video cassettes, VHS, into the office. So many people who wanted to break into the business. Some could act but could not move. Some could move but could not act. Some could not act and could not move. And at a certain point, I really got tired of watching those videos, and I said, "Don, I cannot watch them anymore. No more." One day, I came to the office, and Don tells me, "Isaac, I got something from this guy from England. I think you should watch it." And I said, "Don, I don't want to watch it anymore. I'm really tired of all of those videos." And Don said nothing. By the end of the day, just before I left, Don told me, "Isaac, I still think that you should watch this video." And I said, "Okay, Don, put it." So he puts it, and I was totally not interested. So in the beginning, you see what I call kind of beauty shot. You see Scott, you see that he's good looking, he's built right, and I see it, and I saw so many. I say, "Okay, can he move?" And then you see him moving, and I say, "Wow, a really good martial art." Now, can he do screen fighting? Because there is a difference between real martial art and martial arts that goes to the screen. You have to. There's a big difference, because real martial art is minimum motion, maximum effect. And for the film, it's exactly the opposite. You want maximum motion, minimum effect. And you need all of those big reactions. So now you see him Scott doing acrobatics and really amazing stuff. And I said, "Oh my God, can he act?" And now comes BBC drama. You cannot be more dramatic, or it's like, that's BBC drama. Wow. So I found myself, first time in my life, taking the phone, calling him, and leaving a message on his machine. I think it was the middle of the night in England. And I said, "Look, I don't know you. I just saw the tape. I'd like to work with you. I hope we'll have the right opportunity." Now, at that time, we were developing in New Image, Millennium, the movie Special Forces. And I took the tape, and I went to my producer, Boaz Davidson. But for me, when it comes to movie, Boaz is my sensei. And I told him, "Boaz, I'm getting so many videos people send me." And Boaz said me, "You're telling me half of them are coming here to New Image?" And I told him, "Boaz, you have to see this." I put the tape in his video machine, and he's watching, and he has the same reaction like me. He says, "Okay, it looks good. I mean, can he move?" He moves. Scott moves amazingly. And Boaz tells me, "If you're telling me that he's good, I will accept it, because you have more experience or knowledge in this. But can he act?" And Boaz learned cinema in England, in the London International Film School. I said, "Wait." The dramatic scene comes, and Boaz telling, "Oh my God, he can act. Let's tailor a role for him in Special Forces." So we tailored the role for him in Special Forces as a rogue British agent. And to make a long story short, he was in the movie, and he did a great job. And then Undisputed 2 was on my plate. And Boyka was supposed to be the bad guy, a menacing, cruel guy, big, a giant. Now, Scott is 5'10", I'm 5'9". He's not a big guy. He definitely doesn't look like a brute, huh?
No, I was going to ask you, was there any fear at first of casting him? Because Michael Jai White is a big guy, and Scott is I mean, considerably smaller than him. It looked fine on camera, but was there ever any apprehension of he might be too small for that role?
Everybody was against me. It's like Scott told me, Isaac, if I will do the role of Boyka, I'm going to live in the gym day and night, and I'm going to do everything possible to make it the best I can. And I took his word. So now, everybody told me, you're doing a mistake. Boaz, but my sensei told me, Isaac, I think you're doing a mistake, but you're the director. My editor, Eric Ross, told me, you're ruining your career. Michael J. White told me, Isaac, I'm 6'3" or 6'4". Scott is a small guy. What are we going to do? Are you sure? And I told with a poker face, I'm sure. I wasn't sure. I was worried myself. But I took his word and I told Scott, listen to me. Don't cut your hair. Don't shave. We're going to figure out in Bulgaria. I went to Bulgaria, and the first thing that I told the art department crew says, make me a shoe that on a platform of about 3 or 4 inches. So they did this shoe, and I told the wardrobe, give me a huge, thick jacket for Boyka and for Michael J. White. So just to build mass. Now Scott came, and I didn't know what to do. Basically, we were sitting with the makeup artist, but I worked with her before. I worked with her in the very first movie that I did in LA, Yvonne. She was a veteran artist. She knew what she was doing, and we were experimenting. So we shaved his head, and not shaved, but came, and at least we found some kind of a cut, that style that we liked. It was a little bit like Chuck Liddell haircut. Mm-hmm. But then we didn't know what to do with the beard. Yes, no. We cut it, and we left some kind of a mustache, and it didn't look right. And then Scott took some of the hair that was on the table, and he put it was like a goatee and a mustache. Just I was holding it. And suddenly we said, wow, that's the character. Let's add some scars in here, and let's fill him up with tattoos. Scott has no tattoos, nothing. So basically, the special effects department in the studio made like stamps that were tattoos, and we put it on him. But we thought of every tattoo there was a reason why we put it. And we applied those stamps, and then makeup artist finesse it. One of the stamps that he has in his chest is like the Enzo, like the Zen round circle. And actually, this was, if you look at the books of Masoyama, the very first karate book that I ever bought was after my bar mitzvah, using my bar mitzvah money, called This is Karate, and this is what you have in the cover. And Don Warner, when he did a video about Kyokushinkai, he did something similar, and I borrowed it to use it on Boyka. And this became his symbol. It became his symbol. It's unbelievable, But it's on his kind of chest. And then we added some other tattoos. The character was religious, so we added some religious stuff. And he was a prisoner, so stuff that was related to the Russian mafia, etc., etc. But this is how he became a character. Now, in some scenes, Scott is wearing those shoes, and Michael is actually barefoot. So, and when you shoot him for a low angle, he looks bigger than what he is. So, yes, he created a character. In the original script, he was supposed to be really a bad guy, but I kind of sensed that because in order to make him an interesting character and a challenge for the protagonist that was George Chamberlain, Michael J. White, I didn't want to be him I wanted him at least to have a code as a martial artist, to have some kind of a code. So we left that code there, and I think that what happened is the audience so much liked the character because he had his own sense of honesty in his own twisted way, and they went with it and really liked the character. So the character is really a non-apologetic, non-PC, grumpy guy that people like. And the surprise was that people all over the world really like the character, especially from third world countries. I got so many emails from Arab countries, from African countries, from the Soviet, ex-Soviet bloc. The people really identified with that character because he's non-apologetic. He's an inmate, but he doesn't feel sorry for himself. He's like, he takes it, he accepts it, and he's not trying to please no one. He's not trying to be nice, and yet he has his own honesty. And that's Boyka.
I was blown away by it because of the fight sequences. I mean, you're seeing a guy do essentially he's doing a jumping, almost capoeira style kick, and in midair turning it into a standard martial art front kick, and the blending of the styles that he was able to do was just amazing, and especially to watch a guy do that without like the wires or the CGI. I was blown away.
No wires, no CGIs. No wires, no CGI. I don't like it, especially not in a... So a few things about the Undisputed. First of all, I'm a B-movie director. And I know that I am, and that's actually what I wanted to do, B-movies. I call myself a blue-collar director.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I saw the script of Undisputed 2, and I liked Undisputed 1. I love Walter Hill. I'm a fan of Walter Hill. I remember telling Boaz, you can see that everybody that was involved in that movie loved boxing, because the Undisputed was supposed to be a boxing movie. Mm-hmm. And I told them I want to do it as a martial arts movie. Martial arts was just then coming into the light. People didn't know what it was. And Boaz asked me, what the hell is mixed martial arts? And I told him it's a combination of judo and karate and boxing, and there is something like this? And I told him yes, and he said, look, you can do with the action, you have carte blanche to do with the action whatever you want, just stay with the script and the character. And so that, at that point I said to myself, okay, this will not be a B movie. I'm going to treat it as an independent movie. People will not die to the right and to the left like any other movie. It will be a sports movie. And I don't like jail movies. I really don't like jail movies. And I was influenced by The Longest Yard that Robert Aldrich did, mm-hmm. with Burt Reynolds and Eddie Albert Sr. I like that movie because it was in jail, but it was a sports movie that happened in jail, and it was not a jail movie. So that was the direction that I wanted to go. Now, I knew that I want to do it as the martial art should be as authentic as possible, and I said there is an opportunity here to push the envelope. There was an opportunity, and I wanted to go with it. And J.J. Perry was the fight choreographer, and we basically went with it. We just went with it. I remember we were flying together in the airplane, and J.J. said, look, what if we ramp the fights? And I said, it's a great idea. Now, in order to ramp it, you have to know which sections that you are really ramping, because you have to shoot them in slow motion. And then in the editing room, Irit Raz, the editor, she was really working hard to find the right place and the right pace of ramping. We were just trying it, and something that not so many people know, that when JJ returned to LA, he showed it to 8711, and those guys were working on 300, prepping it. And he said, look, here is something that we did in Bulgaria, very low budget movie, but look at what we did. And they liked the ramping idea, and they did it also in 300. So it's kind of, sometimes the pharyngeus, like a B movie, is influenced a major motion picture. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's the opposite, but it's kind of always interacting. So we used it first in Undisputed. One thing also I want to add regarding the fact that many people like the character of Boyka. I was once in Brazil shooting a scouting location for a movie. It never happened, but I scouted location in a favela where they shot City of God. The movie supposedly happens in Rio de Janeiro, but the favela was in actually Sao Paulo. And I remember we drove into the favela. We were with the representative people of the mafia were with us, because you cannot go to a favela like this without their permission. And they showed me, they told me, from here to the left you can shoot anywhere that you want. But I was looking, I said, wait a minute, from here to the right there was like a creek running. It looked much more interesting. I said, I want to scout that part. It's much more interesting. And they told me, no, we cannot do it because this is where the mafia is keeping a tight grip. We cannot, they will not let you shoot there. And I told the producer, the Brazilian producer, I said, look, we are here. They know that we are here because they're actually in the bus. Go and ask for their permission. What can I do? I'm just a foreign director. What can happen? And he went down, he kind of, with a long face, said, no chance. And he went down, and he came back after 5-7 minutes with a big smile. He said, you won't believe it. The head of the mafia loves your movies. And 2 minutes later, the head of the mafia comes, and he loves Boyka, and he loves Ninja. And he told me, like in Portuguese and broken English, whatever you want to shoot, you can shoot. And he joined us for the location scout. So here's one example of the influence, the fact that people like Boyka. We shot once in a gypsy village in Bulgaria. And again, the same story. People said, you're crazy to shoot in a gypsy village. They will rob you. They will not cooperate. And we're shooting there with Scott. And they see him. They don't know Scott, but they know Boyka. Everybody is like mobbing him. Boyka. Here comes a guy with a long sleeve shirt. He comes to me and he pulls the sleeve and it's written with Cyrillic letter in his hand. It's tattooed Boyka. I took a picture I sent to Millennium, to Avi Lerner and Buzz Davidson, So it's amazing how much people like that character.
Well, now I love Boyka, and I mean Scott. God, if you watch The Expendables 2, he's got the Boyka haircut, the voice, and all, iconic. And we saw, of course, there were 2 more sequels, The Redemption, where we see Boyka out of prison. Then when Boyka or Undisputed 4 comes out, we see him going back into prison, which kind of is an ending, but is there a chance that we might see, because it was almost kind of open too, will there be a part 5?
I hope so. I don't know. I don't know. There were talks about making it into a TV series. Some people, I just don't know. It's like, sometimes, if you think about it, it's a no-brainer. There is a character that so many millions of people like him, and if you go to YouTube and you put Yuri Boyka, some of the tapes have more than 100 million viewers. Mm-hmm. And but some of the people they want to do other stuff, and it's really crazy. I think it's a no-brainer to do either another movie or at least a TV series about him. But look, I'm a director, I'm not a producer. It's kind of, I think even for Millennium, it's a little bit under the radar because now they're concentrating on big movies. and that's for them. It's a franchise. It's low budget stuff, and they're looking sometimes into the remote mountains, and they forget to look in what's on their yard.
Always do a Kickstarter to fund your own.
Yeah, but I'm not a producer. I'm a director. I'm not. It's really not my character, and not. I'm not interested in it.
Gotcha.
I like making movies. I don't like the production side of it. I like really. I like to do it. It's like when I go to the dojo, I like to be there on the mat, and I'm not interested in the other aspects of running a dojo. That's where I live. I teach voluntarily the adult classes, and I'm not interested in other activities. The logistics or whatever. I stay with movies.
Now I liked. I like Ninja with Scott Adkins, and that was a little different for me because it was it had like the supernatural flair. So I get there, had to be a little wires and stuff like that. But when I first saw Ninja Shadow of a Tear, I was blown away. I mean, Ken Kasuki, his father is like one of my idols, and that was like one of the most action packed, good, hard R movies I'd ever seen. One of the best I'd ever seen. Was it hard though? Because I noticed, as opposed to Boyka or Open Range, other movies that Scott's done, this one he had more of that Japanese style of martial arts. Was it difficult at all to get him to kind of center back to like a more grounded style?
No, it's actually really easy because Scott, whenever he creates a character, really creates a character. He goes deep into every character that he does. He's a very serious actor. And when Scott works, he comes to work. He comes super prepared. He knows the characters. He knows every character that he does, the background of it. So when we were doing Ninja, he knew that it will be, yes, it's a film style action, but that it will be based more on Japanese martial arts. Now, there were two movies that we did. The first one was the first Ninja that I did in 2009.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it was more money, it was more budget. But I did a mistake. I went and I said, I have more money, let's do it comic style. And I didn't like the result. And and Scott played like too much of a good guy, like it was almost dorky, And I never thought, and yes, we used some wires there. And I saw this movie, for me, I didn't like it. It was like I did a mistake. And I was looking for an opportunity to fix it. And 3-4 years later, when the opportunity to do the sequel, I sat with Boaz and we decided to totally go dark. Basically, to kill his wife in the beginning of the movie, and the good character becomes a twisted, dark character, which is right for Scott. And there are no wires used for that movie. It was straight, old school martial arts. I had an amazing fight choreographer, Tim Mann, and he was working with Brahim Ashabahi, that is from France, and he also played as a role in Boyka Undisputed. He created the character there. And we had a very good stunt team. It was a very small movie. The stunt team was 3 or 4 people. And we changed them all the time. Basically, we recycled them. But the hardcore was really a team of 4 people. Tim Man, Brahim, and 2 Thai guys that were there. They also played in the movie. That was the hardcore team of that movie. But Tim Man is the most organized fight choreographer I ever worked with. Now, he's from Chinese origin, but he's Swedish. Not only that, he also taught Taekwondo at the dojo, the karate dojo of my sensei, Thomas Weber. And when I saw the way that he works, I said, wow, I can see that you're Swedish because you're so organized. He was so organized, he was doing my homework. I saw that he didn't say, you already did my work. I can sit on the side and, I don't know, eat some ice cream or something. It's like, wow, it was so organized, you know? So, yes, an amazing guy, amazing team. And we had, also I did it besides Boaz, the producer that I had Frank DeMartini with me. And Frank and I are good friends. And we almost did a movie in Brazil together. It never happened. But that movie happened, and we just had a good team. It was a very hard movie because it was, all the sweat that you see, it was so hot and humid. It was for Scott, if you see Scott, the hardest movie he was ever had. And something, even for me, it was very, very hard movie. But it was worthwhile. It was really worthwhile. We shot it with one unit, 36 days. It was a tough movie. And we were lucky. Again, it was Frank DeMartini and Boaz. We had a good team in Thailand. And the only thing that I feel sorry for that movie is that we had to kill the character of Namiko, Mika Eiji, that created such a wonderful character as Namiko. We had to kill her in the beginning of the movie. That was really heartbreaking. But it set up the movie,
Like I said, Kane Kusugi's dad.
Kane Kusugi, of course.
His dad was my hero. I wanted to be a ninja. And the fight with Kane and Scott was so amazing. How long did that take to shoot?
3.5 days. Now, something about Kane. I wanted to do a movie with Kane long time before. And that was the opportunity. Kane, in my opinion, Kane is a very underrated and underused actor. And the reason is, he's a very, very good actor. He speaks fluent Japanese and fluent English. When he speaks, he's American. He was born in California. He's a California kid. Mm-hmm. So he speaks, in the movie, he had to speak English with a thick Japanese accent. But that's his English. I have an accent. He doesn't have an accent, So he speaks Japanese with no accent, English with no accent, American English with no accent, and he's an excellent actor. He's an excellent martial artist. He did all of his own stunts, and it's a little. I mean, he's underused. He's an amazing. He's a star. In his underused. That's a pity,
I mean, that, like, I remember, if you could go back to his childhood, he was in Revenge of the Ninja. He was in Pray for Death. So, I mean, he was really into it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
I know. Yes. I know you're the director, but I'm just going to tell you, we need to see another one of those ninja movies.
I would love to. Honestly, I would love to do another ninja. I talked to Frank. Frank wants to do it too, I don't think that Millennium are interested in doing it, but at this point. But I would very much would love to, I think we left the ending open so you can restart and reboot the character any place in the world. Mm-hmm.
Now, my wife's favorite Scott Adkins movie, which she made just a few years later, was Close Range. Now,
interesting.
My wife loves Scott Adkins, I think, for other reasons other than myself and my son. But my one question is, my favorite weapon has always been the staff because it's the most practical. But
Yeah.
my second weapon of choice is knife, especially karambit knives. Well, in the beginning of Close Range, when Scott has the knife belt and he takes
Yes.
out all those people, was that filmed as one continuous shot?
Yes, but it was not because I shot it in 3 different locations.
Okay.
And you can see, and no CGIs. So I had to fake and create an illusion that it's one place. But it's not, because whenever there's some kind of a wipe or whatever, it's a cut. But the trick is to do it seamlessly. That's why when I see a movie like 1917, I'm so jealous, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But yes, the idea was to make it as a one shot. And really, from the minute that he's in the elevator and comes out and does everything that he does, it's a one shot. And it was a tough thing to do, because when I was looking for the location, I was looking for a specific location that I can do everything in one shot. Because when I read the script that I read originally was not reading like a Western. It happened actually in the East Coast, in the Northern East Coast. But I read it and I stumbled into that movie by chance. Sometimes things like this happen into the script. And I told Chad Lau, Chad, let's build it in Arizona and let's make it like more like a contemporary Western, because I wanted to do it like spaghetti Western style. Now, it was in my head when I read it. I said, I want to do this as one shot. I don't know why it read to me like one shot, and I want to do it like a one shot. So the hardest thing for me was to find location. That was a tough movie to do because we shot it really in 19 days. That's a tough one. But that was supposed to be a one shot, and I remember we rehearsed with the DP Tal Lazar, that he went to see the fights, and the fight choreography, and was there like rehearsing the move. So with no camera, just to understand where he has to be aligned, because you have to be aligned in a specific angle so it will read like a hit, because it's not a hit. So that was a tough one, and we rehearsed for about 4 or 5 hours, and then we shot it. That was the first or second day of shooting. That was a tough one to do, but we did it, and I was very happy when we did it.
Oh, I liked it. I liked his character, and I liked how it took place in one area. You know, the house and then a little bit of property. It gave it a very good claustrophobic kind of feel. I really like that. I think that even the character he played could be a lot more done with that.
So one thing that in my mind, and that's why the movie, you see, the movie is lacking some kind of emotion, because he's a family man. He's helping his sister and his niece, basically. The problem is you're not really emotionally involved, because I think the idea behind it, Ehud Bleiberg, the producer, was kind of saying, maybe I'll take it and I'll try to make it into a TV pilot. Never really happened. It's a pity. So that's why we didn't kill none of the characters, and he saves everybody. If I would have known that it will not be a pilot, I would kill somebody, the sister or the niece. And now, emotionally, the movie would escalate. I didn't do it because in my mind I said, okay, let's think of a pilot, and then those characters can be, you can have those characters in the series. Mm-hmm. That's one of the, I will not call it a mistake, but one of the things that it could, if it was just an independent movie, that was the way to go. But one more thing about the influence of the spaghetti western. When I was a child, one of my heroes, the Italian western, was an Italian actor called Giuliano Gemma. And one of my favorite movies as a kid was a western called Arizona Court. This is why this movie happens in Arizona, and the character originally was called Colton, and I remember sitting with John and said, "This Colton? Colton is a dorky name. Call him Colt." And here is Arizona Colt,
Mm-hmm. I can honestly say, and I'm a religious man, so I can say, swear to God, hand to God, after seeing that movie, I bought a hidden knife belt. Just because I thought it was, and I like knives, and so, yeah, now I'm ready if I ever have to go to a hotel, because I do wear it regularly.
You know something? I got that belt. I think, I mean, I gave it to my son. My son then was in the Israeli army, and I just gave it to him, as a souvenir from the movie. But yes, it was an interesting belt.
I found a company that sells them, so I was like, okay, I'm getting this.
You don't want to fly with this kind of a belt.
No, well, right now I can only go to and from work, so I'm pretty safe.
That's true.
No, I've said this in other interviews when I've talked to other martial artists. My favorite martial arts movies are ones like you make, with someone who knows martial arts, who's making a movie with martial artists. I would rather see that. My heyday was the 90s of your Don the Dragon, Cynthia Rothrock's.
Yes.
I don't want to see Arnold Schwarzenegger doing capoeira. I don't want to see things like that.
No.
So when you make a movie, especially with Scott Adkins, I get very excited. And you have another one coming up called Seized, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
What's that one going to be about?
It happens in Mexico, and look, when you do a movie, sometimes you don't know. It's like going into an adventure. You don't know what will be the experience. So I shot it in Mexico. Again, very, very few days. It's less of a martial arts movie, more of an action movie, more of a shoot 'em movie, more of a kind of a video game movie. That's basically it. I don't like to talk about movies before they come out, and it's kind of, I feel that I'm going to jinx it,
Understood completely.
So one thing I want to say about when you talked about the martial arts of the movies of the 90s, etc. You see, you could see in the 90s like two styles. There was a style that they were doing in Hong Kong, and then there is style that they were doing in the West. Now, in the West, again, it was let's do a master and cover it, and in Hong Kong it was more flamboyant, but it was more spectacular. Especially when you see Jackie Chan, and it's amazing.
Oh, yes.
Now, but the thing is, we understand and we appreciate and we adore this the movies that are coming from the Far East because they're very spectacular. But on the other hand, some of them are too flamboyant. They're not realistic. And as Westerners, I think our taste, we want to see something more grounded, but we want some flashy techniques. And I'm talking because I'm doing those movies because I'm a fan of the genre. That's why I was doing those kind of movies. So I wanted something that will have the flavor of the Far East, and yet will be more grounded for the Western head. And maybe that's why people like those movies.
Well, I noticed I always joke with my son, the Ultimate Man movie is Showdown Little Tokyo with Brandon Lee and Dolph Lundgren, because it's like 75 minutes. The plot is not even a sentence. I notice you work with a lot of the same people, which is cool because then, everyone's, you have that friendship vibe and you kind of feel that fraternity, the camaraderie. You've worked with Dolph Lundgren a few times, and he actually does martial arts in your films. Did you have to talk him into that? Because he generally doesn't do it very often.
So I'll tell you a story. I told you that I went to Sweden around 1979, 1980.
Mm-hmm.
The best friend of my sensei, Thomas Weber, was a guy called Åke Nygren. They were both in the Swedish karate team. Åke's Nygren best friend was a guy called Hasse Lundgren. Hasse Lundgren is Dolph Lundgren. They were training in the Kyokushinkai dojo. And we used to see them a lot. Because Åke and Dolph were doormans in some kind of a nightclub called Atlantica. This is before Dolph went to study in MIT and whatever was, before he became a student. So I knew him already in 1980 before he knew that he would become an actor, and I didn't know that I would become a director. He was a karate bum, just like me. Now, next time that I saw him was in 1998. By then, he was a big star, Dolph Lundgren, and I came to his office. That's before Bridge of Dragon, basically, supposedly to meet him, even though I knew that I met him. And I remember I came to his office, that was in New York, and behind him there was a huge picture of the Swedish team, people from the Kyokushinkai team. And I'm looking at the team and say, this is Brian Friedkin, that was his instructor, who was in a British team that won the Karate Championship in 1972. They beat the Japanese team. This is Brian Friedkin, this is Åke Nygren. I basically named those people, and Dolph is looking at me, and suddenly he remembered me. And at this point, the ice melted, right? I was already one of the good guys. So, instantly. Now, before doing that movie, he wanted to go back to Sweden and train in the dojo to be tested to get his third dan. And because he didn't want to get it by merit, he wanted really to work hard and to earn it the right way. So, and I remember people in Millennium, New Image, they were surprised. Said, what? He said no to a movie, he wants to do it later because he wants to train in karate. And I said yes, and I understand why he did it. But also in my head, I said, I know that he will be so sharp after, I'm going to use his skills. So basically, when we did the Bridge of Dragons, I knew that he is like sharp. And I remember talking to Kerry Tagara, telling Kerry, you're going to walk in and Dolph is going to do a spinning hook kick and he will stop exactly in front of your nose. And Kerry said, are you sure? I mean, he's got heavy boots and a rifle. Will he be able to control it? I told him, Kerry, you've got to trust me. He can, right now, even if I put a match in your mouth, he can use his sole of his foot to light your match. He's so sharp now. And that's what Dolph did. You know, he was so sharp, and I used his martial arts, his karate skill to do the movie. Now, I love it because people, when they work with me, they enjoy doing it because they know that that's my background. Even when I did, I don't know if you saw Acts of Vengeance with Antonio Banderas.
Yes, I did actually.
So we did a scene in the dojo, and in the script it's written, an elderly karate sensei is teaching him karate. Mm-hmm. And the stunt team in Bulgaria, they told me, Isaac, we know some people that they're stunt guys, they're not really doing authentic karate, you'll not be happy. And I tell him, so what do you mean? And they told me, you have to do it. He said, me? I feel very uncomfortable in front of the camera. And they were adamant about it, you have to do it. And I did it, I was very uncomfortable. But Antonio was very happy. And actually he wanted to do some crazy stuff there. And he has no background, some crazy falls, you know. And I told him, Antonio, if you're going to get hurt, the movie is going to get hurt, and I will have to commit harakiri. Easy. So I think it's people enjoy it. I remember when we did Assassin's Bullets, the original name was Sophia. The last day of Christian Slater, there was the fight. And basically, he was supposed to fly immediately after. And we started doing the fight, and I remember the stunt coordinator comes to him, Kala, and says, Christian, let me tell you something. You're an excellent actor and whatever. When it comes to fight, just listen to Isaac because he's really there. He knows what he's doing. And I remember we started doing the fight, and Christian asked me, Isaac, you're not doing an insert? No insert. Just follow the choreography. And at a certain point, when we finished the fight, we were almost towards the end, says, can we make it a bit longer? I really enjoy it, you know? So, and I didn't know that he was training in martial arts. He was training with his son, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that when people see somebody that is good in other craft and he loves it, they enjoy it and they're willing to go with you, you know? So if they have a martial arts background, absolutely they will enjoy doing it because they know that you will appreciate them. Also, you will let them look good. You'll do justice with their techniques. And that's what I do, you know?
You know, as a martial artist and as a film lover, I can't thank you enough for the movies that you're making for all of us to entertain us. I really do want to say thank you on behalf of not only myself, but all the action fans around the world.
Thank you, my pleasure. One thing, if I may say, it's still, when you watch a movie, it's still the emotional impact on it. So it's still story and character first. Story and character first. The fight, it's another part. If you can manage to continue the character development during the fight, then you're doing justice to the movie and also elevate the action because there is an emotional part that is attached to the fight. And that's important. Maybe that's another reason why people enjoy it. It's not, let's stop the movie, let's stop the story and have a fight. No, it's a part of the movie and it's a part of the continuation of the character development. Sorry.
Like I said, they take me back to the days of I call them the glory days, the straight to video action. You know, the greatest decade in the world for me.
I agree.
I hope you make 100 more.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this conversation, and I thank you. Just keep on training.
You keep making movies.
Thank you for your time, ladies and gentlemen. You have been listening to the Chronicles of Hollywood History. Thank you from Gomez Richmond Productions.